So Gaffney Klein highlighted the perspective for Mauritania for a very ambitious plan, certainly which would put Mauritania way ahead of all the countries in the continent in terms of ambition for reducing emissions throughout the NDC. And they highlighted the 4 different phases of this strategic vision. Now, in terms of implementing this vision, it's my great pleasure to invite Alessandra Gazendam, who is the European Director for EPCM. EPCM is a very well-known consulting group in Africa and Europe. They have done great projects. They are based in South Africa, but they are operating throughout all the continent and Europe. So Alessandra, the floor is yours. Let's give her a round of applause.
So I need to click the button.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kamal. Good afternoon, everybody. I was expecting to see slide background, so you're welcome to project our slides. First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. It was a great privilege to support the Ministry of Petroleum, Mines and Energy with such a strategic project. Today I'm not here by myself only. I'm supported by Mr. Hassana Mbeirik, who is EPCM's local partner in Mauritania. And that is one of the key messages that I would also like to leave with you today. Never underestimate the power of local knowledge. Mr. Mbeirik has been invaluable in shaping our ideas and giving us insights and helping us to navigate Mauritania as a country. All right, I would like to start off by giving you a little bit of context. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I think the previous speakers have elaborated extensively on that. But if I can continue to the next slide, I think it's important to understand that we developed the oil and gas master plan from a point of departure where gas was seen and oil was seen as complementary to the decarbonization pathway. So our point of departure was very much embedded in the sustainable energy vision of the government. And in all of the models that we've developed, we've looked at an energy mix of about 50 to 60% for renewables. So at the end of the day, we wanted to harness the power of hydrocarbons to, first of all, diversify the economic fabric of Mauritania, to uplift the people, and to make a pathway for a cleaner and greener energy future possible. I would also like to note at this stage that when we originally kicked off the project, we had a very insightful session with the steering and the technical committee from the ministry. And the Director General, Mr. Mustafa Bashir, gave us direction in one of these very first meetings that is stuck with me today, and I would like to share that with you. I asked him, what do you want to achieve with this project? Because we see all Africa is doing master plans, so what are you really trying to achieve? And he said to me, we want to achieve the same level of industrialization as we've witnessed in Qatar, but with a Danish heart. And that was an extremely powerful directive. It meant to us as EPCM that we had to strike a balance between industrialization and socio-economic upliftment. And that was really our North Star for developing this project. All right, we can continue to the next slide. So I would like to spend a little bit of time to tell you about our scope and our methodology. And yes, that's perfect, the slide. So this is just an illustration of how broadly we approach this project. So we didn't want to leave a stone unturned. So we really looked for each and every opportunity that could be applicable to Mauritania. And you'll see illustrated on this chart a number of solution spheres. And in the middle, under-tested, of course, gas to power. One of the key opportunities and prerequisites that we need for industrialization in Mauritania. Then at the bottom, new technologies, blue hydrogen, the export industry, the penetration of the blue ammonia market. We looked at that. Then, of course, the big bubble saying gas to industry. So how can we utilize gas as either a feedstock or a thermal source to empower Mauritania to start producing plastics, gas to liquids, desalination, so we need processed water for some of the industrialization. Those are just examples of the big industrial opportunities we identified. Then, of course, one of the great pillars of the economic fabric in Mauritania, the mines. What can we do? How can gas promote transformation and production increase in the extractives industry? So, of course, gas to power is relevant to the mines, but also maybe smaller hanging opportunities, substituting diesel with a cleaner fuel such as LNG. Then it was very important to us that we don't only talk about huge investments, billions of dollars in huge industrial plants, but that we also reach the man and the woman on the street. So find opportunities that have grassroots relevance. That was extremely important to us. And that is why you'll see on this chart on the left-hand top side, we started to move into those areas. The transport industry in particular, Mauritania is very much dependent currently on an artisanal fishing industry. There is some potential to substitute some of that fuel, so the gasoline, with compressed natural gas. There's also, albeit a small public transport industry, but it's a very, very good opportunity to spark a market whereby gas is used for transport. And then moving on to the residential sector, where we could align with United Nations Development Goals for clean cooking, so using methane gas in a reticulation system to allow the Mauritanian population to start cooking on a cleaner fuel. We've also looked at the opportunity of LPG, expanding that. All of the LPG in Mauritania is currently imported. If we look at GTA, the amount of gas that we will receive during the first phase, 35 million standard cubic feet of gas, that is not sufficient to substitute the need of Mauritania. So we can only, through the GTA gas, substitute maybe 5% of the LPG demand. So that remains an opportunity. So once a richer gas source is available, or more gas, such as Barala, that remains a huge opportunity for Mauritania to reach the population in terms of using gas. Then, at the very bottom of the chart, oil. So our scope of works were also to look at oil opportunities. So this is not only a gas master plan, but also an oil master plan. Obviously, the oil assets are not as richly endowed as the gas, but nonetheless, those are opportunities. Africa, at least to my opinion, will not immediately reach net zero in 2050, so there will be a continued oil demand, especially in Africa, and that is something Mauritania can definitely monetize on. Thank you. If you can move on the slide, please. So I don't want to go into details as to how we approached the study, but I think it's important to note that we followed a very structured approach. And one of the reasons for that is that we really collaborated intensively with the Ministry of Petroleum, Mines and Energy. We didn't want this study to be an external consultant coming into Mauritania and dictating as to what happens. So if you want to take a number of stakeholders with you, it's extremely important to be very structured and follow a very structured approach. And at the heart of our methodology was a weighted criteria analysis. And I've mentioned before the industrialization of Qatar with the Danish heart. Now that exactly played into our weighted criteria. One of our top criteria that was not EPCM's result, but at the end of the day, a joint decision with the ministry, was of course the bankability and financiability of each and every opportunity. But at the second place, it was the socio-economic impact. So there we already had a very, very balanced view when we evaluated and investigated the opportunities. Thank you. You can move on to the next slide. So I also don't want to go into too much detail, but we've done a lot of work in terms of financial modeling. So for all of the different infrastructures we identified, whether that is an offshore pipeline or an onshore pipeline or virtual pipelines, and for each and every one of the opportunities in multiple scenarios, we built financial models. And with that, we basically acknowledge that financial viability is extremely important, and we shouldn't build air castles. At the end of the day, we need investment to make these things happen, and no investor will be interested to look at a project if there is no financial viability. Thank you. You can move on to the next slide and on to the next. I also don't want to spend too much time on going through timelines and milestones, but I wanted to communicate that something like an oil and gas master plan is not something that you develop in 2 workshops. It is a journey and it is a process, and you have to honor the time that it takes to develop these ideas and also co-create and collaborate with stakeholders. So it took us about 9 months, which is a poignant period of time to actually produce a first draft of the report. And we spent another 3 months refining that report with the ministry, and also we took some extensive time to transfer knowledge and to take the ministry and their designated oil and gas master plan team with us on the journey. So we were very privileged to welcome a delegation of 16 people from Mauritania to South Africa, in which we spent an intensive 2 weeks doing site visits and training. Thank you. You may proceed with the slides. So let's look at the results. So we've written a 300-page report. What does it tell us? So in a nutshell, if we look at the gas opportunities, natural gas, the good news is Mauritania is so well endowed with natural gas that it can do all of the opportunities we identified and more. So that is really good news. And remember, these opportunities already also included export opportunities. So with 74, I saw Cosmos this morning saying 75 trillion cubic feet of gas, very, very well endowed. But we are going to need $20 billion to make it happen. So that is the wake-up call. Yes, you are well endowed. There are many opportunities out there, not only big industrial opportunities, but also smaller grassroots opportunities that gives an opportunity to the private sector to become involved. And that is really interesting to Mauritania, to also look at those opportunities. But we are going to need the involvement from your private sector and also, of course, foreign direct investment. Thank you. You can move on to the next slide. Now, in terms of oil, I've already mentioned, and this is probably all good knowledge to you, Mauritania is not so well endowed with oil. Nonetheless, there are some reserves. And basically, there are two opportunities, either export of crude oil or the refining of the crude oil and substituting the imported refined products. Now, I think we indicated in the final report that most probably the crude oil export would be favored so that you can just cash in on that, so use the currency to invest into your renewables sector and to invest into the gas development sector. Thank you. You can move on. So I've talked about the weighted criteria analysis. So what did the weighted criteria analysis tell us? Now, I have to say that we all had our hypotheses at the beginning of the project, but it was extremely satisfying to see that through the data analysis and through our weighted criteria analysis, those hypotheses that we had were actually confirmed. So that was a very satisfactory feeling. So we've identified 4 areas of focus, and there is a little bit of prioritization in these 4, and it's basically connected also to where we know the gas could possibly come from and what those development timelines look like. So first of all, I think undertested gas to power. Mauritania needs to invest in gas to power as soon as possible because that will be a prerequisite for any industrial development. The second position is twofold. First of all, gas to mines, so the extractives industry. We can use gas to beneficiate iron ore, phosphate, and possibly other reserves that could stimulate economic growth and job creation. Then the transport industry, really a low-hanging fruit. You don't need a lot of gas for that. It is demonstrating the use of gas to your population and to the world. That is very important. That will have a direct benefit at the grassroots level. So we are talking about substituting diesel and gasoline for public transport, and I know that the Mauritanian public transport industry is not massive, but we also need these smaller projects to spark a market, and therefore I ask you very kindly not to discount the smaller projects. We've got the artisanal fishing industry, one of the key pillars of the Mauritanian economy. We can substitute the gasoline currently used with compressed natural gas. That will have significant savings and also paves a way to a cleaner and greener transport industry. And most of all, why I find these opportunities to be so attractive is because you can involve your private sector immediately. And with any industrialization, your private sector will be extremely important in taking the transformation forward. Then thirdly, gas to industry. Of course, all of the big investment projects, I'm talking about the blue hydrogen plants, the liquefaction plants, so the LNG plants. I was delighted this morning to see that Cosmos foresee to build their liquefaction facility onshore. That is very good news to Mauritania because an offshore facility obviously doesn't provide the job opportunities that Mauritania needs. So an onshore facility is, at least from my point of view, very much preferred. So gas to industry, but you are going to need a lot of gas for the gas to industry. Therefore, the development of Barala is extremely important and urgent in order to promote gas to industry. And then fourthly, residential, not because it's not that important, but for many gas reticulation systems, it takes quite a while to implement. And There is, of course, the hope that maybe the gas from Barala would have a richer content, but you would also have enough content to actually extract the butane that you would need for LPG. So that remains an opportunity and an exciting opportunity that would also have an effect on a grassroots level. Thank you. You may proceed with the slides. So I don't want us to get lost in the wheel, but to me it was quite important to highlight the fact that if you develop your hydrocarbon sector, it would also have a ripple effect on other sectors. And that, once again, this is talking to the Danish heart, so the Scandinavian welfare vision. This is extremely important to have a ripple effect through all of your other sectors and provide opportunities also for the private sector, and at the end of the day to uplift your population. Thank you. And the final slide is basically the visualization of the oil and gas master plan. So this slide is basically summing up a 300-page report. And it basically paces through different time frames, so short, medium, and long term. And I want to state at this stage that this is, of course, a very optimistic view. This is a master plan. It is vision. It's visionary. It tells you the art of the possible for Mauritania. In reality, it's going to be much more difficult to implement all of these opportunities. But I think something like this is important to hold up every once in a while and look at it and say, well, this is the vision. This is what is possible. If we could get all of our offshore resources developed, and if we could manage to get that $20 billion for the investments required for all of the gas opportunities. So you'll see in this master plan that the short-term opportunities are the low-hanging fruit ones, plus the gas to power. So short-term, try and substitute the heavy fuel oil, of course, currently used in Nouakchott for power generation, and use gas. And it takes us through all of the other necessities that would be required, such as, for example, a cement clinker plant. Mauritania imports all cement clinker at the moment. There's an opportunity to use gas to actually manufacture your own cement clinker. And it basically culminates in 2036, 2045, when you have more gas to actually go for the bigger, more industrial type of projects that will bring you to a level, potentially, such as Qatar. If they can do it, you can as well. So I want to close off and thank you for the opportunity to have worked with you, with the ministry. It has been a great pleasure and a great privilege and a great responsibility, and we took it very seriously. And we can only encourage you to start implementing the smaller opportunities as soon as possible. Thank you for your attention. Merci beaucoup.
No, Alessandra, why don't you stay? Yeah. Thank you very much, Alessandra, for a wonderful presentation. It's difficult to summarize a 300-page report in less than 10 minutes, but you tried. What you highlighted in one of your last slides was about the willingness to invest. And it's my great pleasure to introduce Aissata Lam, Director General for the APIM, Agence de Promotion des Investissements de Mauritanie, who will guide us on what Mauritania is planning to do in terms of encouraging investment, especially around sectors that are adjacent to the oil and gas and energy sectors. Aissata.
Assalamu alaikum. Bonjour tout le monde. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present today the work of the agency. My name is Aissata, and I'm the Director General. First of all, thank you very much to the Ministry for organizing this very important event today. It's an honor and a privilege to be here. Thank you very much, Your Excellency, Minister Abdesalam, for inviting us. It's a true pleasure to be around your colleagues and also these important investors. So as you introduced, the agency is the new entity in charge of investment promotion. So our role is really to, here I'm going to try to explain the position of the government and also the Mauritanian president in terms of investment attraction, but also investment ecosystem in order for you, the investors, current and potential, throughout your investment journey for us to accompany you in an efficient way. So today I'm going to do a brief conversation. It's very intimidating to talk after all those experts, and I'm really not an expert in the field, and I'll just try to give you a brief presentation of the agency, what we do, Mauritania in a nutshell, the investment ecosystem, and also Mauritania up to its potential as we all presented today. So as you know, Mauritania, we try to summarize 10 quick facts that everybody should know about the country. We are well aware of our need to improve our positioning in terms of the international ecosystem, and usually when we meet people that never heard of Mauritania, those are really the elements that we try to emphasize and to just give a quick summary of who we are as a country and the great potential that lie into our natural resources, our coastline, our cultural heritage, our agriculture, and the productive sectors that are very, very promising. Next slide, please. So in terms of the investment ecosystem, as I said, the agency is quite new. We just celebrated our first anniversary, and during the first year, we really tried to, next slide, please. We really tried to kind of materialize the current vision of the government to really put the private sector at the center and to drive more foreign direct investment and consolidate the national private sector. So in terms of the ecosystem, there's a new institutional framework that is being written right now with the agency operating as a single window. So as investors, potential investors, we're here to accompany you throughout your investment journey and playing the role of the single window. As I was saying, we really try to materialize the vision at the highest level. As you can see today, there is a great ambition from the highest authorities of the country to put the investment, foreign direct, and also national at the center of the development of the economy of the country. There is an International Investment Council that is led by the President of the Republic himself that was established a couple of years ago, and the aim is really to gain the maximum feedback from the experiences from the investors on the ground, but also potential in order for us to propose the right reforms, to put the right mechanisms in place in order to make the investment journey as smooth as possible. So as you can see, there is a political will at the highest level. There's also a ministerial committee overseeing the business climate reforms of the country, led by the Prime Minister. In this committee, once again, we really try to push reforms in order to improve the investment climate. We have a number of investment opportunities in the pipeline, not only private, but also PPPs. We are currently working on a PPP portfolio with different sectors, namely agriculture, hydrocarbons, and different sectors that are really important for the economy of the country. And finally, our agency, we work obviously closely with the Ministry of Petroleum. Our main tool is the investment code, which is different from the mining and hydrocarbon code, but we complement each other. We like to tell the investors in these specific sectors that you don't necessarily need just to go through us or the ministry, but we really complement each other. Our role is to guide you throughout the process. As I said, we work as a single window. We have a guichet unique that is in charge of setting up the company, so it's really the first step when you enter the country, and we're here to guide you throughout the process, obviously with the support of the ministry in charge. In terms of the ecosystem, like a fact sheet, quickly, it was said in the video, the message that we really want to throw out there is Mauritania is open for business. In the investment code, we made it as open as possible. There is no restriction for foreign investors. You can come and invest without having a local partner, but we also can guide you in order to identify the right partners on the ground in order to make the establishment and the investment journey as smooth as possible. At the one-stop shop, we really are working hard to improve the processes, and as of today, we're able to establish 2 hours to maintain the 2 days to register your business. I hope we will reach 2 hours one day, but as of today, it's 2 days up to 2 days to register your business through the single window. The investment code offers a set of fiscal incentives. We have a free zone in Ouadhibou, and you have a set of infrastructures in place in order to facilitate, obviously, the implementation of projects in energy and hydrocarbon sector. Next. So, yeah, Mauritania up to its potential. I will not go much into details into everything that was said before. As I said, I'm not a mining nor energy specialist, but as you know, Mauritania's extractive industries has always played an important role in the economy of the country, with up to 25% of the GDP and consisting of close to 75% of the country's exports. The current challenge right now for us, and the key word for us is really diversification in terms of the structure of the economy, but we talked about it for the energy sector. We're moving towards a cleaner energy, toward renewable energies, and Mauritania is one of the world's richest in terms of the renewable energy sector. Thanks to a coastal climate with strong winds, high-intensity solar radiation in all regions, and also a solar power potential that varies between 2,000 and 2,300 kilowatt per square meter per year, and a wind force as well that is very high. So all of this is a very good enabling environment for green investment that we're really supporting at our level. And in terms of, obviously, natural resources, it was well presented before me. Mauritania is really placing itself in order to be at the new frontier of these new types of investments, and we are definitely here to support you throughout this journey. Next. So to finish, why invest in Mauritania? I think after today, the message is clear. As we were saying, Mauritania is business-friendly. Our agency is really aiming to be the one-stop shop for investors, from business registration that takes 1 to 2 days to the completion of all administrative formalities. The investor is taken care of from A to Z. Mauritania is open. As we said, we made starting a business easy, and there is no restriction for a foreign entity to operate. Mauritania is the window to Africa and Europe. We are really at the crossroad, and especially when talking about the new sources of energy, I think there is a great potential here in terms of access to market. And finally, Mauritania is upward trending with a positive outlook, new vision, and number of incoming reforms. We are really sending this message. Mauritania is open for business. Marhaba bik, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much for your very nice presentation, Aissata. You just, where do we sign for investment? Just here. Okay, so you have highlighted the opportunities, the simplifications of procedures. Now we're going to move to the next phase, which is a panel, and it's my great pleasure to introduce the panelists. Can I ask Mr. Mustafa Al-Bashir, Director General of Hydrocarbon, to come to the panel? Mr. Turad Abdelbari, Director General of SMH. Sheikh Abdullahi Bada, Director General Somelec. Todd Niebrugge, VP Cosmos Energy. And then Miles Warner, Director of Government Affairs with Capricorn. Ce sera plus simple. Okay. So while we are setting up for the microphones, let's start by inviting the panelists here, actually. That might be the easiest way. I would like to invite the Director General of Hydrocarbon at the Ministry. Mr. Mustafa, I wonder when you sleep, because you are handling so many projects, and it's extraordinary to have so many stars at the same time. So perhaps you could tell us what are your immediate priorities today at the Ministry?
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم. Good evening. So thank you, Mr. Kamal, for joining us and for your support. During this journey, we see today with the different studies the Ministry is undertaking in order to set up an integrated vision for the energy sector in Mauritania. So I think the objective was set up earlier this morning by His Excellency, that we are taking into account our resources in gas and oil, our resources in renewable energy, our mining resources, our location close to the European markets, and this new transition context to establish Mauritania as an integrated energy hub, and to increase the impact of the exploitation of the hydrocarbons for the benefit of the country. So, as explained this morning in the different presentation, we have been setting up this gas master plan along with the carbonization study and a local content strategy, as well as a roadmap for the hydrogen. And today, with what we have seen in this presentation the morning, we have this integrated vision for the energy sector in Mauritania. It's a phased approach where we will start by accelerating the exploitation of the existing gas and oil resources in Mauritania, and then using the gas as a principal fuel, a transition fuel, to decarbonize to lower the carbon footprint in the industry, and to have also resources to develop the infrastructure we will be putting in place in that purpose. Of course, our objective is to reach these carbon net zero objective by then, but as explained, we need to start with what we can call the low-hanging fruit opportunities from the gas master plan, and I think Alexandra touched on that by identifying the priority that we have now, which will start with the gas to power project that will enable the other opportunities to take place. And of course, we need to start from now a focused roadmap for building the infrastructure needed for developing these opportunities. The approach also presented today in the gas master plan was based on a supply-demand model that identified the center of supply and demand in Mauritania and establish some scenarios for the infrastructure we will be putting in place. So now it's really our first priority is to start running the wheel with these first projects that will allow the other projects to implement these different phased opportunities and to achieve our objective by exploiting all these opportunities and impacting positively the growth in Mauritania.
Thank you very much, Mustafa, for these highlights. Now, Mauritania is moving to be what I would call a Premier League player in the area of gas and also in energy in general. And in order for Mauritania to be this first-class player, it's very important to have the organizational structure to do that. And the Société Mauritanienne des Hydrocarbures, SMH, is currently playing an important role, but we would foresee their role to increase quite significantly going forward. So, Mr. Tourad Abdelbari, could you please enlighten us over the plans for SMH in terms of strengthening their presence and mastering these developments for the near, medium, and long-term future?
Thank you, Sir Kamal. And I will start by the logo of APIM, Mauritania مرحبا بك. I think very nice and attractive really introduction to this panel today. Maybe I will explain myself in French, it's better. So I think the translation is live. Peut-être pour ceux qui ne le savent pas, la SMH a été créée en 2005 comme étant le bras opérationnel et commercial de l'État dans le secteur des industries pétrolières et gazières. En 2023, la SMH va atteindre l'âge de maturité légale. Elle aura 18 ans. 2023, c'est aussi la date anticipée pour le first gas de la première phase de GTA. Donc la coïncidence, elle est importante. Au cours de ces 15-16 années d'existence, la SMH a eu la chance de travailler avec plusieurs sociétés pétrolières qu'elle a côtoyées de très près et qui lui ont permis d'améliorer sa connaissance du secteur pétrolier et de développer son expertise. Je pense que c'est l'occasion de remercier et de louer cette relation que nous avons eue depuis Woodside, les partenaires de Shengeti, Tullow Oil, Rock Oil, Koufpec, Petronas après, et après avec, voilà, pour ne pas citer tout le monde, Total, Shell, Exxon même, Chariot, évidemment BP et Cosmos, et même Chevron qui a séjourné en Mauritanie pendant une année. Toutes ces entreprises ont été très utiles, leur présence a été très utile pour la Mauritanie et pour la SMH. L'échange d'expertise la maîtrise des outils de ce secteur tellement normalisé, ça ne s'acquiert qu'à travers le contact des sociétés pétrolières. Donc, durant ces 15-16 années, nous avons développé une certaine expertise, nous avons une bonne poignée de cadres de toutes les disciplines pertinentes au secteur pétrolier. Je les remercie ici pour l'engagement qu'ils expriment pour rehausser le niveau d'expertise de l'ASMH et du secteur pétrolier en Mauritanie. Mais en plus, nous avons senti le besoin récemment d'injecter du sang neuf dans les ressources humaines. Nous avons procédé à un recrutement d'une quinzaine d'ingénieurs et de cadres, tout profil confondu. Voilà, j'ai dit qu'en 2018, nous aurons atteint la maturité légale. Mais je pense que cette maturité légale va coïncider avec ce virage de la transition énergétique qui s'annonce, qui est en fait aujourd'hui une réalité. Il faut que la SMH, comme toutes les sociétés pétrolières, s'adaptent. Tous nos partenaires aujourd'hui se transforment progressivement en société d'énergie. Et je pense qu'inéluctablement, la SMH doit suivre le même trajet, tout d'abord pour se pérenniser et pour pérenniser ce rôle d'acteur technique et commercial de l'État dans les industries énergétiques en général. Cette transition énergétique, ce virage impose qu'on s'assoie un peu, qu'on réfléchisse, qu'on engage une réflexion profonde pour voir comment on va l'aborder et comment on va s'y préparer. Donc la réflexion a été engagée. Cette réflexion, évidemment, elle va se focaliser sur la transformation des textes qui régissent la société pour lui permettre de s'intégrer facilement dans cette nouvelle tissu énergétique. Deuxièmement, il va falloir réfléchir à préparer les profils, les expertises requises pour ce nouveau secteur. C'est sur quoi on a commencé à réfléchir, naturellement les outils. Ça, c'est la vision moyen-long terme. Mais dans le court terme, évidemment, nous avons à développer. Son Excellence, aujourd'hui, l'a annoncé, la transition énergétique doit être juste, surtout pour des pays comme le nôtre. Nous avons des ressources naturelles, notre couverture énergétique est limitée, donc il va falloir que dans les prochaines décennies, qu'on développe nos ressources gazières et pétrolières pour satisfaire notre besoin et pour satisfaire les besoins encore qui sont là pour le marché international, mais en même temps nous préparer à ce virage. Il y aura certainement une bonne période où va chevaucher l'utilisation des industries fossiles avec le commencement des énergies renouvelables et la production de l'hydrogène. La SMH, dans ce cadre, doit aider, doit pousser ses partenaires qui sont là et ceux qui vont venir à effectivement essayer de produire les molécules de gaz et de pétrole avec le meilleur rendement environnemental possible. Donc, toute molécule qui doit être produite doit être progressivement verdie, décarbonisée. Et je pense que c'est quelque part les études qui ont été citées, l'étude de décarbonisation, va nous guider effectivement sur la feuille de route pour essayer de progressivement décarboniser nos projets, ceux qui sont déjà entamés et évidemment ceux qui... Donc la veille technologique sera d'un très grand apport pour essayer de tirer profit de toutes les améliorations technologiques qui vont verdir la production de fossiles en gaz et pétrole. Donc ça, c'est un focus effectivement sur lequel on travaille. On a la chance d'avoir des partenaires qui s'inscrivent dans cette vision stratégique de l'État pour décarboniser le secteur industriel. Évidemment, la SMH doit avoir, après cet âge de maturité, doit avoir plus d'activités, plus d'interactions, plus de rôle actif dans l'exploitation de sources pétrolières. Donc ça, c'est un axe sur lequel on réfléchit. D'ailleurs, Sibé Nasr, il est avec nous sur cette réflexion. Je pense que d'ici sous peu, on aura fait les conclusions qui s'imposent et et décider effectivement les aspects les plus urgents de cette transformation qui est engagée. Grosso modo, ce sont là les grandes idées sur lesquelles on travaille à court, moyen et long terme pour transformer la SMH et pour lui permettre d'accompagner la transition énergétique et être vraiment un bras technique commercial de l'État dans le secteur. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Tourad. As was highlighted by the presentation of His Excellency the Minister, access to electricity is one of the priorities in line with the Sustainable Development Goals, SDG 7. And it's my pleasure to invite Mr. Sheikh Abdullahi Beda, who is the DG Somelec, in your triple role as both producer, transmitter, and distributor. How do you handle all those priorities in order to meet those goals and provide accessible and affordable electricity to all?
Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator, for giving me this opportunity to speak to this August Assembly here and to share our statement of reform of the Somelec today. Je voudrais quand même, avant de répondre directement à votre question, mentionner que nous œuvrons aujourd'hui en tant qu'opérateur de distribution d'électricité, production, transport et distribution d'électricité, et qui travaille effectivement pour arriver à satisfaire le besoin de nos citoyens pour avoir l'accès à l'électricité qui est à la fois durable, mais aussi qui est à la portée de tout le monde pour améliorer l'accès global de notre pays. Comme vous l'avez bien entendu ce matin, Monsieur le ministre a bien mentionné les objectifs en 2030 pour avoir l'accès à 100% à l'électricité, mais il y a aussi un deuxième volet important d'objectif qui est avoir au moins 50% de mix énergétique sur le plan renouvelable en 2030. Et donc, nous, en tant qu'opérateurs, nous sommes peut-être les plus contents dans cette salle d'avoir ce progrès en termes de disponibilité des ressources gazières, mais aussi, surtout particulièrement aujourd'hui, dans les circonstances actuelles au niveau mondial, où nous avons les prix des produits pétroliers qui grimpent de manière exponentielle et que ceci impacte de manière très agressive nos comptes d'exploitation en tant qu'entreprise. Donc si effectivement le premier pilier qui a été présenté ici, qui est le gas to power, arrive, nous sommes extrêmement ravis et nous sommes très enthousiastes. Et donc Somelec se prépare à cet effet. Pour les dernières projections, nous aurons certainement au niveau en termes d'économie annuelle, en termes d'exploitation, si on arrive à shifter pour notre centrale de 180 mégas de Nouakchott, si on arrive à shifter au gaz, nous aurons au moins 100 millions de dollars par an. Donc je pense que c'est quelque chose d'extrêmement important. Et ceci a été quand on avait fait les prévisions où la tonne métrique du fuel était autour de entre 400 et 450. Aujourd'hui, on a dépassé les 890 dollars la tonne métrique. Donc, vous imaginez les économies que nous pouvons avoir si, effectivement, on arrive à très rapidement commencer l'exploitation, l'operating de cette centrale sur le plan fuel, sur le plan du gaz. Donc, je pense que c'est un élément de taille. Mais il va aussi... je pense que nous devrons aussi faire l'accent en particulier sur comment assainir la Somelec pour effectivement devenir un opérateur très solide pour accompagner toute cette révolution et tout ce développement en termes d'énergie. Donc il y a un assainissement sur le plan interne au niveau de la Somelec, tout ce qui est bonne gouvernance. Je pense que l'arsenal réglementaire a été mis en place. Il y a aussi un développement en termes de projet qui est aussi clair et net. Aujourd'hui, nous travaillons sur 3 lignes importantes. La ligne Nouakchott-Zoueret, ligne 225 kV, la ligne Nouakchott-Kerper, 225 kV, et bien sûr la ligne Nouakchott-Nouadhibou, déjà, elle existe déjà, mais nous sommes en train de renouveler aussi, de mettre en place un deuxième terme pour pouvoir bien sûr transiter sur les 3 lignes, chacune autour entre 200 et 250 MW. Donc le potentiel en termes de transport énergétique, il est là. L'assainissement interne au niveau de la Somelec, je pense qu'il est bien engagé. Et la restructuration de la Somelec, dont fait allusion aujourd'hui Monsieur le ministre dans son mot d'introduction, dans son mot d'ouverture, cette réforme dont la structure a été adoptée récemment par le Conseil des ministres vise à avoir un opérateur très solide, un opérateur régulé, je tiens à le mentionner, régulé, avec une maison mère holding qui va gérer les aspects transversaux et avec 3 entités, 3 filiales qui sont indépendantes, autonomes dans leur gestion, une filiale pour la production transport, une filiale pour la distribution commercialisation et une autre filiale pour l'électrification rurale, parce que l'aspect électrification rurale demeure quand même plus ou moins le parent pauvre du développement d'électricité dans notre pays, parce que le taux d'accès est encore réduit. Et il y a un effort substantiel à faire sur ce plan. Et donc cette structure, à la fois avec le cadre légal et réglementaire qui est en cours de finalisation, avec un code d'électricité qui certainement va être promulgué par notre Parlement très prochainement, avec la stratégie de l'électrification au niveau national qui est aussi en cours de validation, et bien sûr avec aussi un plan production transport aussi qui est en cours de finalisation. Je pense que à la fois et le cadre légal et réglementaire, à la fois les projets de développement et l'assainissement et la restructuration de la Somelec, tout ceci nous permet de croire à un meilleur avenir pour le développement du secteur de l'électricité en Mauritanie. Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much for this vision. Our next speaker is actually a former colleague. We've been working together for now 35 years, almost. He doesn't show that age, but we started not very far ago. This is Miles Warner. He's in charge of government's relation with Capricorn. Many of you don't know what is Capricorn, but actually it used to be called Cairn Energy, and it changed its name in, I think, December 2021. And my question to you, Miles, I mean, you are one of the expert companies in this new oil and gas basin called the MSGBC, Mauritania, Senegal, Gambia, and also Guinea-Bissau and Guinea-Conakry. And what are your perspectives for the developments there? But also I would like you to discuss a little bit your approach to environment and to sustainability and relation with stakeholders. Thank you very much, Miles, and we certainly wish you big success in this coming phase. Our next speaker is Todd Niebruge. He's with Cosmos Energy. He's not here. So let's move now back to Alessandra. And Alessandra, you highlighted in your last slides the amount of investment. I think it was about $20 billion in the gas and about $700 million in the oil sector. What do you see as being critical risks going forward to ramp up to those amounts to be invested? What do you see as necessary conditions for those plans to be materialized?
Okay, so I've been told I only have 2 minutes. So to my mind, the most important thing now for Mauritania is to demonstrate an ability to implement some of the smaller opportunities, because that will convey confidence to potential investors and will only attract foreign direct investment. And if you ask me very specifically, I think one of the key infrastructural questions that need to be solved is how to get the gas from GTA to shore and where exactly, so that you can use that gas either for gas to power or some of the smaller opportunities. So that's in a nutshell what I think you need to do, show some action. Thank you.
As we have to move to the lunch, but before going there, I would like to finish this session with a last word from our colleague from the APIM. As we say in Arabic, وَخِتَامُهَا مِسْك. So please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I think everything was said. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to give a few words at the end. I think the message was clear. I like what Alessandra just said, action. For us, it's important. As I said, we just celebrated our first anniversary, and for us, we are now in the phase of action. So we are all inviting you to join the wave, and you're all welcome, and we're here to support you, as I said. Thank you very much.
And I want to conclude this session by a word from Aysata, who said, "Marhaba bikum," and this is the word that we will retain: invest in Mauritania. Thank you very much, and enjoy the lunch.